Hello, today is 17th of May, which is the Constitution Day here in Norway. So, happy Constitution Day. So, today I want to talk about how much money I saved on my Tesla Model X after driving it for 2 years, almost 2 years, and 150,000 kilometers. So, how much was it? Well, I can give you the answer right away. It was a whopping 360,000 NOK, or 38,000 euros, or about 45,000 US dollars. So that's quite a lot. I have done a lot of driving during those 2 years, but you know, in Norway we have lots of EV incentives, and I only took advantage of some of it. So yes, I mean, if you're really into this, you can even save more per kilometer. So I will give you, the cost breakdown, how I managed to calculate down to this number. So let's start with the biggest saving for me, which is fuel saving. So you know, a Model X is a fairly large SUV with enough space for 7 people. Now this car is for 6 people, but it's still a big car. So in order to find an equivalent fossil car, you have to look at like BMW. I don't think X5 is large enough. I'm thinking more like Volvo XC90 or Audi Q7. It has to be like 7-seater equivalent. So let's assume that I was like a fossil car vlogger, right? Like for Volvo, I drove around with a Volvo XC90, and also for this car, about 80% of the time I pull a trailer, so you have to expect massive consumption. So I actually estimate 12 liter per 100 kilometer consumption, which is not unlikely given that I drive in all different conditions: summer, winter, rain, and also in that consumption I also count in sleeping in the car. You would probably do that by having the auxiliary heater running or whatever. So I'm not sure if you can get a good night's sleep in 8 hours with the auxiliary heater running without the 12-volt battery going low, but let's just assume that, okay, that it would be possible. And with 150,000 kilometers, then we have to assume about 18,000 liters of fuel. And also the price in Norway for fuel is pretty high, so I think we can assume about 15 NOK per liter, which is about 1.5 euros. Sometimes you get cheaper fuel, but sometimes you also have more expensive fuel, and I cannot choose I cannot always choose to fuel up at the cheapest places because I travel all over the place, right? So you see that will equal to a whopping 270,000 NOK in expenses just for fuel. And then the next one is not that big, but we also have to count it, which is oil changes. So I asked a car mechanic, like, how much do you need to refuel oil or replace the oil and filter? And he said it's recommended to replace it every 20,000 kilometers. So of course you might have some long life oil, or you have maybe some people also change it less than that, but yeah, so we have to assume that, and each service would cost about 5,000 NOK. So keep in mind that this is Norway, one of the most expensive countries in the world. So that would actually be, if you drive 80,000 kilometers per year, you have to service the car 4 times per year. And as for my long drive here, 150,000 kilometers, that's an average 7.5 times. So that would be 37,500 NOK. And then the next one is about toll roads. So most countries, they have toll roads, and also Norway is no exception. So, there is a website for calculating toll roads, and you could input your destination also with some waypoints, and it will give you how much it will cost. And in Norway, EVs don't pay any toll roads at all, even if we are towing a trailer. So that is pretty good. And okay, I look into Google timeline, Google Maps timeline, to see where I have been since I received this car. And the trip from Oslo to Trondheim and back again will cost about 300 NOK in toll roads, including I have some detours once I get to Trondheim and drive around a bit sometimes, sometimes a little bit past Trondheim, all over the place. And same also the trip from Oslo to Bergen and Stavanger and back to Oslo on the other way also has about 300 NOK in in the toll road, also including some detours here and there. And also I look at the timeline, and I saw that I took the Trondheim trip 35 times, and then the Bergen-Stavanger trip 35 times. So that would be, you know, 10,500 NOK for each of those groups. And also I drive a lot around Oslo, you know, not only for like the Nimber trips, but also like errands when I go to, I don't know, go to buy groceries with wifey, or I have some business with a car, or I go to, I don't know, some places to make videos about other cars, other EVs like Ioniq, Nissan, whatever. So then you have to pass through these toll roads in around Oslo, and the prices have changed. It's gone up, but I average 30 NOK, and then I assume that, okay, in one day I might have 3 times I pass the toll roads, and then I estimate like 200 days per year, right? I drive around. I'm also out of the city, or like on vacation, so that will equal to 36,000 NOK over that 2-year span. So the toll road alone is a whopping 57,000 NOK, which is a lots of savings, yes. And then let's talk a little bit about the ferries. So in Norway we also have some nice incentives. I will talk about the old system. There's an old system and a new system. So with the old system, you know, ferries, EVs can travel there for free. You only have to pay for the driver and the passengers. So that is pretty nice. And keep in mind that, you know, I usually haul my trailer with me, and so the price of the whole like trailer and everything is based on the total length of the vehicle plus trailer, and then it's like a factor there, and then you have to multiply that factor by the price of the car. But because the car is free, then you have whatever multiplied by 0, which is always 0. So, you know, I can haul as big load as I want, and it will still be free for the vehicle, but only pay for the driver. So you see that to Trondheim we don't have any ferries, but via Stavanger, and between Bergen and Stavanger we have 2 ferries, and they are pretty pricey if you count in trailer. So my car plus trailer is not more than, it's between, you know, 8 and 10 meters long. So there's like different groups, and you see I have to pay almost 800 NOK between Halhjem and Sandvikvåg if I had a fossil, and almost 700 NOK for Mortavik and Årsvågen. So that's a lot. So I don't have to pay those costs, but I only have to pay for myself, driver. And of course, most people, if they travel a lot like me, even if I had a fossil, I will use this prepaid ferry card. Then you get 50% off for the vehicle, and you also get 70% off for the driver. So as for me, yes, I got a 17% off. So if you only look at the difference, you know, what I would have saved, I mean, yeah, what I've saved versus fossil, it would be the price for the vehicle. And we have some quick math here, and it will be 15,000 NOK. And that was with the old system. With the new system now, EVs, they pay half the price of fossil cars. But you know that ferry card still applies. So I have the ferry card, so that means that I only pay 25% of that price. So the saving here is not that big, and you know it started from the 1st of March this year, 2018. So you have to take, you know, what I would have saved if I used fossil, which is just a quarter of those prices combined. And then I have 4 trips, so that will be only 1.5k NOK. So you know, that was the fossil car expenses. And then we have to look at what expenses I had as an EV that fossil cars didn't have, right? So when it comes to supercharging is free and included for this car, which is really nice. So that means no money there. But I did use some CHAdeMO on my trips. So I tried to simplify this. My trips to Trondheim usually didn't need that many CHAdeMO stops. Like I could just juice up mostly at the supercharger. But then, especially in winter, I topped up maybe like 15 minutes extra there, and then like a half an hour extra there, or 15 minutes. So that was usually enough. But you know, that was like in the old days, right? Early days, like 2016, 17. But then new superchargers pop up, like one in Berkåk, And also on the trip to Stavanger, Bergen, on those trips I used the CHAdeMO more. But also then you had supercharger in Voss, and you had more supercharger. My point is that there are more and more superchargers coming, but I took an average of those trips. So you remember earlier it was like 70, it was 35 plus 35 trips, right? So I averaged 1 hour of CHAdeMO charging because I used a trailer. If you didn't use a trailer, then you don't have to use a CHAdeMO. So that equals to 10,500 NOK in CHAdeMO charging expenses. And okay, you know, actually a little side note there, I could probably say more if I use Fortum, but if I try to go for Grønn Kontakt, then there's some discount. The more you charge, the more discount you get. But also another little side note that because I'm an ambassador for Fortum and I report errors and I help them promote, I get these for free, but you know, I have to still count as if I had to pay for it. So yeah, but anyway, okay. And then that was that cost, and also another cost is home charging. So right now we are in the garage, we're juicing up here, slow charging, and based on some logs I looked at earlier, about 25% of my juice comes from home charging, and then 75% comes from CHAdeMO or supercharger. And then here's a screenshot of my trip meter, which is pretty old. It's not from the first day, but it is old enough to get a good picture of what my average is, including the trailer driving, you know. So 300 watt-hour per kilometer, and also if we assume 10% charging loss when we charge at home. Okay, 150,000 kilometers. Do some quick math again, right? And then you have to multiply 0.9 with the charging efficiency. And then 25% of the driving was that. So we see 13,750 kilowatt hours consumed from the plug at home. We assume about 0.8 NOK per kilowatt hours in Norway. That includes some VAT and whatever extra expenses you have in that price. So that would be 11,000 NOK for home charging. So if you look at totals here, you see that fuel is a huge portion of the bill. So I save a lot on fuel and oil change and all that. So we add them together, and it would be 381,000 NOK for savings. And then you have to subtract the CHAdeMO juicing I had and the home charging, and then we end up with 360,000. So that is a lot for 2 years. Of course, I drove a lot, but you can only imagine if you didn't drive that much, if you consider buying a Tesla, or you know, then you can always estimate how much your savings will be. But you're gonna keep in mind that this was with a trailer, and most people don't buy Tesla to primarily drive around with a trailer. But you know, the savings should be in the same ballpark. And also I left out some smaller expenses, like, you know, you can juice up and charge. I mean, you can charge and park at municipality charger for free. You know, smaller changes. I mean, smaller expenses. I left them out to not make it too complicated. So you know, this means that in Norway, normally, you know, you can buy a Tesla that costs about 100 to 200,000 NOK more than a fossil car, and like the total cost of ownership, it will still be, you know, as good deal, or it may be even better. Yeah, it depends how you look at it. The problem in Norway is that the fossil cars are very expensive because we have high tax on fossil cars. Especially the more powerful it is, the heavier it is, the more it pollutes, then it's very expensive. So if you want something exotic, fast, fossil in Norway, you have to pay a lot compared to other countries. So that's why we have so many Teslas in Norway. Well, one of the reasons. So now I mentioned that fuel is a whopping 71% of the total cost saving, right, for fossil. And you know, even when the EV incentives run out, that means that, you know, the saving for a Tesla or an EV will still be pretty huge, because you save so much on the fuel, right? But of course, we can also assume that not everyone will get free supercharging. So even if I had to pay for a juice at the supercharger, which is 1.4 NOK per kilowatt hour, it will still be just a quarter of the fuel cost. Yeah. So that is because the fuel is expensive in Norway, and electricity in Norway is dirt cheap. So of course this doesn't apply to everyone. So I took my own case in Norway, and then you guys have to change some of these calculations to fit your country. And also, well, another again, you know, the CHAdeMO I use, most likely, for you who don't use a trailer, you don't have to care about the CHAdeMO. You most likely won't have to. You don't have a big cost there in CHAdeMO. And also, what I've seen now is that Tesla is building more and more superchargers. So actually, by the end of this year, I probably don't have to use CHAdeMO at all during my trips. Yeah, and by the time you get your Model 3 or whatever, you know, there will be so many superchargers all over the place, so you won't need the CHAdeMO. Yeah, so that was interesting. The numbers, they were pretty high, you know, higher than I expected. So, but I think most of this is more or less realistic for my case. Yeah, I didn't just find some numbers or modify them to make them much better or much worse. Yeah, so I think that's it. I hope you guys enjoyed this video as usual. So talk to you guys later.